The other day, after the last event, I was cleaning my dock. I was pondering on what guide, nobody asked for, I should write. So, while scrolling around, I looked at the small horde of lilies in swimsuit and decided it was time for a submarine guide. Anecdote aside, welcome to another Azur Lane guide, that, as usual, nobody asked for. This is the SaltyBunny, and today we will take an in-depth look at one system in Azur Lane that is a major turn-off for many players. The submarines. Many players tend to toss whatever in their submarine fleet without a second thought, or just simply ignore them. But, the submarines fleet in Azur Lane can prove to be the turning point in converting a defeat into victory, as history has proven. History. You know you cannot escape this part, right? During World War II, the German U-boat fleet and the Italian submarine fleet have summed over 14 million tons of losses for the Allies, and nearly managed to choke dry Great Britain's supply lines. Meanwhile, in the Pacific Theater, the U.S. Navy Silent Service, counting for less than 2% of the total U.S. Navy ships in numbers, was also very successful. With their small number, and many setbacks earlier in the war, they managed by 1945 to destroy around 30% of the Imperial Japanese Navy's major surface fleet, including 8 carriers, battleship Congo and 11 cruisers. They also crippled the entire Japanese logistical apparatus by sinking 60% of their merchant fleet. The losses of 8 million tons is one thing, I suppose, but in the 2.1 thousand ships sunk, 44 of them were troop ships, transporting, for 33 of them, over 1,000 troops. Therefore cutting not only vital supplies but also much-needed reinforcements. The Royal Navy Submarine Service did not show such impressive numbers, however, instead of that, they proved to be very successful in their blockading of Axis shipping around Norway and in the Mediterranean theater. Overall, they summed somewhere around 2 million tons of vital Axis supplies and sank 57 major Axis warships, out of which you can count 35 submarines. They also have the only documented victory of a submerged submarine against another submerged submarine. In that duel, U-864 imploded after one of HMS Ventura's torpedoes hit the U-boat. In-game. In Azur Lane, the submarines fleet does not take such an active role. They will function as combat support and, as opposed to the rest of your waifus, will not directly be controlled by the commander. At this point in time, there is 2 available in-game submarine fleet slots. First, let's take a look at the submarine basics. Submarines possess distinct mechanics, and once deployed, they can support your actions in 2 ways. They could be set to move and engage enemy fleet inside their hunting range. They can also be called in and actively engage in combat during a fleet battle. Of course, all submarines' actions are confined to their hunting ranges. Either way, having your subs move and strike or called into battle, any action you take will consume 1 ammunition out of their limited supply pool. You can even elect to do both passive and active actions simultaneously during the course of an engagement. However, the huge drawback is that, every submarine's actions cost 1 ammunition, and by stacking their actions, their ability to support your fleets will be greatly diminished in time, since they will run out of ammo in 3 turns or so. I personally prefer to have my subs sticking to 1 role, usually in an active role, and I set them to be called automatically for experience or drop farming. Since auto-call will have them active right at the start of the battle, for higher-end content, I do prefer controlling when my submarine fleet will be actively called. By doing that, I can clear all the mobs with my ships and call the submarine afterwards for maximum effectiveness on bosses. Most of the controls to manage your submarine fleet behavior are located in the strategy side panel. Once you are in an active sortie, i.e., you've started the map. With the Hide or Show AS button, you can toggle the visibility of your active submarine range. Visible by default, it is the red pulsing area. Unless your submarines have special equipment, or special skill, they will not engage outside this area. Attack mode and support mode button will toggle between these two modes. If set on attack mode, your submarine fleet will hunt and engage enemies inside their range. The stricken enemy fleets will see their HP reduced by a percentage calculated by your submarine fleet power and level difference to their target. The HP reduction have a minimum cap of 3% and a maximum cap of 20%, but some meow fighters can raise that cap to 25%. To engage the enemies, the sub-fleet can move up to 2 squares per turn. Under active support mode, your submarines will not hunt and strike at map targets, but will instead be restricted to only actively take part in action during your surface fleet actions. The total oil cost for your submarines, displayed on their individual character sheet, will be deduced every time they are actively called to engage in a battle. The last button is the relocation button. This allows you to relocate the center of your ASR to any more convenient location within the map. This action does not cost ammunition, but will expend some oil. The oil cost is a result calculation of the distance and the number of submarine in your fleet. You might want to use this on specific sorties where the spawn location limit too much the possible support actions. I do cover such case in my chapter 14 guide. There is one additional main control for your submarines for auto-call them or not for support mode. This control is located on different screens depending if your engagement are done under manual fleet movement or auto-search clear. If you play the maps manually, like when you do initial clears, the auto-call option is available in the target fleet in the confirmation window. That's the panel just before initiating the engagement. The option is located in the right top corner of the fleet display, just below the familiar auto combat toggle button. If you engage under clearing mode, once activated, move to your fleet selection window. Under the Role tab on your right hand side you will find the toggle options for your fleet to be automatically called at the beginning of any engagement within their ASR or to remain on standby and be called manually during each battles, once again inside their active submarine range. One additional note on calling subs. Even if your auto call is not activated for clearing mode, you can still manually call submarines during a battle by using the main action button down on the lower right hand side. In Operation Siren, you are limited to 1 submarine fleet. They can be called on a map by clicking on the order menu. By the radial minimap, using the submarine support command will summon your sub-fleet into the map. Once they run out of ammunition, they can be called again. However, recalling them will cost an increased amount of action points. The first call cost 0 AP, but the second call will cost up to 32 AP. Like all other commands, the AP cost will reduce over time all the way down to 0. I'd like to add that, in the order window, you can also automate the calling process by setting any action point threshold value. While your submarine are deployed in a map, they will not show up on the field and they will not have the familiar ASR. There is no attack mode and relocation is not possible. Your fleet will not be able to hunt and damage enemy fleet, but will be able to support any battle within the map with no range restriction. That covers the main mechanics and controls. Let's move on. Behavior and Stats. The submarines comes in 2 flavors in game nowadays. We have our normal historically used submarines. Additionally we also have, since the introduction of Royal Fortune and later on, the entire Tempesta faction, the sailing frigates. The following behaviors only applies if your submarines have been set to be called and actively support your fleets in combat, i.e. not on attack mode. The normal submarine will enter the fight submerged and will deploy all their torpedoes. Once they run out of oxygen, they will surface and engage with their secondary gun's armament. During that surface phase they can be hit by the enemy and sustain damage. After a short surface period, the entire fleet will disengage and automatically retreat from the action. Sailing frigates will enter the fight submerged but will immediately surface and engage with all their guns blazing. Same as the normal submarines, they can take damage and will retreat after a little while. For the important stats, submarines have the oxygen stat that determine how long they can remain submerged. There is also an option to visualize the submarine ASR. The button is located on the lower left-hand side of the stat list. The sailing frigate does not have oxygen. Their statistics are comparable to any other surface ships. The torpedo stat is of prime importance for all your normal submarines, since it is their primary weapon. However, the firepower stat does retain some importance for their surface phase before retreating. Leveling up. Getting your submarines leveled up is, I am not gonna lie, tedious, at best. I briefly touched the subject in my leveling guide video. You can speed up the process by feeding them massive amount of EXP data packs. But if you level them by grinding EXP, they will only gain EXP if they are called in support mode. One way to specifically farm experience for them would be to be playing the ambush strategy on higher chapters, 10 to 12 if you are able to. To do so, you assemble a mob fleet that will have KMS Nürnberg if you have her. You have to make sure to limit your air control values and have lower scouting value across your fleets so that you can get ambushed. For your boss fleet, just put whatever cross-fleet ships you can muster to ease out the process. Once that's done, enter the map and then just move around with your mob fleet inside the ASR of your submarine fleet until you get all escort fleets deleted and ambushed to the limit of your sub's ammunition. Exit the map and repeat. If you elect to level your subs in Operation Siren, you will be hindered by the very high action points cost on subsequent fleet summon after the initial one. Considering that, Operation Siren is more like a side activity when leveling submarines, it is not a sustainable method in its current mechanical state. That being said, I did mention Nürnberg earlier, and you might ask why. Well, that specific ship does come with the skill, follow my lead please. At level 10, this grants a plus 10% EXP bonus to all submarines and aviation submarines that participated in the battle. Nürnberg was a ship locked behind the inverted Autant that is now part of the war archives and has been added permanently into the game. She is of elite rarity, and can be constructed in the light construction pool at a 1 hour 20 minutes timer. Unfortunately, the skill bonus does not apply to the sailing frigates. Besides that, most of the other factors I discussed in the leveling tips video will help a great deal when leveling submarines. Morale, passive dorm bonuses, etc. Link in the description below. Equipment. Your normal submarines are able to equip submarine torpedoes, main armament, destroyer guns, secondary guns, and are sharing most surface ships' auxiliaries. They also have access to some dedicated specialized auxiliaries. The sailing frigates, in the other hand, have very restricted equipment. If you want to know more about Tempesta, there's a link to my overview video down in the description. In this video I will survey and highlight the most important or best equipment for your submarines. Main armament. Of the various possibilities for your torpedoes, the arguably best guided torps are the Mark 20 Bidder submarine torpedo, available from the Royal Navy Gear Lab. Alternatively, the German G7E acoustic homing submarine torpedo, also comes from the Gear Lab and certain events. The American Mark 28 submarine torpedo is also a good option. They come, unsurprisingly, from the Gear Lab as well, and have a slightly faster reload and lower damage than the German G7E. For unguided torpedoes, go for the Gearlab Rainbow Japanese Type 95 Improved Pure Oxygen Submarine Torpedo. As secondary choice, you can safely pick the gold version of the Type 95 or the British Gold Gearlab Mark 12 Ferry Sub-Torpedo. In this last case, however, it might prove to be a waste of resource since they also comes from the Gearlab. Secondary armament. For the secondary guns, we will usually go for destroyer beatdown guns. Since the surface phase is relatively short, putting the best guns might be a waste of resources, unless you have 3 spare rainbow guns lying around. Since not too many people does have such liberties, just pick whatever decent gun you have in your inventory, such as the American Twin 127mm 5" 38 Mark 38 gun, the Japanese Twin 110mm Type 98 gun, or the British quick-firing Twin 120mm Mark 11 gun. They all will offer good performance on any of your submarines. Just make sure to leave aside all fast-firing guns. They will be pretty much ineffective for your submarines due to the absence of any form of all-out assault. For the auxiliaries, there are, as mentioned earlier, several specialized equipment, plus a wide variety of regular gear. The preferred utility setup will be comprised of the improved snorkel for longer immersion. Alternatively, you can use the compressed oxygen cylinder. You can only use one of those equipment, they cannot be used conjointly. The second best utility auxiliary is the pressure-resistant hull design for improved movement. All those equips are available in the monthly core data shop. Another dedicated utility is also available depending on your preference or needs. The improved storage battery will increase your AS by up to 2 squares. This equipment is also available from the core shop. For maximum damage, you can use any iteration of the Type 93 Pure Oxygen Torpedo Auxiliaries, from the core data shop Rainbow, to the Tech Packs Gold and Purple iteration. U556 and U556 Meta can use the certificate of sponsorship. This core data shop auxiliary will increase their ASR, surface time, by 4 seconds and boost both HP and evasion. One last equipment to cover today is for I-13, which is currently the only aviation submarine in game. She is the only ship that can have an effective use for the core data shop's Siren float plane bomber. This ship's secondary gun has been converted by a reconnaissance slot, leaving both auxiliaries available for the usual shenanigans. Fun fact, the Siren float plane is listed as torpedo bomber, but in fact it's a dive bomber. It comes equipped with a 1,600-pound bomb. If you struggle in clearing the weekly raid supply line disruption, that is exclusively for submarines, you can consider using a high-performance hydraulic steering system. For the Augment Modules, the 2 universal are, the Kunai and the Dagger. The Kunai improves torpedo and hit rating and grants the skill, Crippling Blow, that will slow hit targets. The Dagger improves hit rating and evasion and also gives the skill, Crit Targeting, that boosts the submarine critical rate by 10%. As of this video, 6 submarine have unique Augment Modules that grant good to excellent performance improvement. U-47, Hamora, Albacore, Surcouf, I-58 and U-557. Out of the 3 available Tempesta frigates that acts as submarines, only Royal Fortune does not have a unique module yet. Fleet composition. There are various ways to set up your submarine fleet. One of the preferred setup is using 3 U-boat that have the Wolfpack formation skill. That makes for a very strong synergistic fleet. Notably, U-81, U-96, U-37 and U-101. Both other German subs have a Wolfpack skill. Besides the Wolfpack obvious choice, here are some of the strongest submarine in game. Flasher, Hamura, From the Ninja Scroll crossover, U556, Leonardo da Vinci, U47, Albacore, Archerfish, Cavalier and Nautilus. You can also intermix some Tempesta frigates in your submarine fleet, or even go with a full pirate fleet. They should be alright, if not for shit and giggles. Outside of the highest maps, Tempestas will always do a great show if you have them. Final word. Your submarines will always be as good as the love you give them. They are heavily reliant on their skills to be of any use, so make sure they don't skip their tactical academy lessons. Also explore your Meowficers, they can have a drastic improvement effect on your submarines. Besides that, it more or less boils down to which strategy you will choose for your submarine fleet. If well located and called at appropriate times, your victory might hinge on their support. Even if some of them looks silly, yes I am looking at you bluegill, or creepy, well only Torricelli fits that bill. Anyway I digress. Give yourself some time to explore the skills and effect of your team of swimsuit lilies, and the population of your catalog. In the long run, it will give you an important and flexible edge toward endgame. That covers pretty much what I had to say on the submarines. If you found this guide somewhat useful to you, or have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. You can also like and subscribe for more guides like this in the future. If you did not really cared about any of this shit, thank you for watching and reaching this point. This was the SaltyBunny and thank you for watching the video. We're done for now.